Have you ever wondered if your beloved soul animal has been with you before in other lifetimes? Or if they are coming back to you? In today's podcast episode, I will talk all about soul animals, past lives, and pet reincarnation. If you have recently lost an animal, I hope this podcast will help mend your broken heart, help you gain an understanding that this is not the end, and your soul animal is truly eternal. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a certified professional animal communicator and pranic energy healer. I offer remote and in-person animal communication and energy healing for all kinds of animal issues, as well as providing animal communicator training workshops and mentoring. I'm also able to speak to animals in spirit after they have crossed over and do past life regressions with you and your animals to explore and heal your past incarnations and address repeated karmic patterns. If you listen to episodes 1 and 2, you will know that animal communication is simply telepathy. Telepathy uses thoughts, words, images, sounds, smells, and feelings, or anything to do with the 5 senses, and can be done remotely, whether you are in a physical body or not. The same physics laws of telepathy applies to talking to an animal in spirit. If you listen to episode 7 about talking to animals in spirit, you would know it's easier to talk to an animal in spirit than in a physical body. This is because there is no density of the physical body. In episode 7, I also discussed that the soul is eternal and the body is just a vehicle for this incarnation. Keep in mind, I will be sharing my personal opinion based on my experiences as an animal communicator. I have talked to many animals in spirit that have crossed over, animals from past lives, and your beloved animals that have already reincarnated to be with you again and help you with your lessons. As I mentioned in the last episode 7, the heaven realm is not what we were taught in schools or religions. It is not up there or down there. The Rainbow Bridge is a transitional crossing of animal souls, and the spirit realm is just a dimensional jump or a different dimensional plane. I can access animals in spirit telepathically, similar to mediums who talk to humans that have passed. Now let's talk first about soul animals. In episode 7, we talked about the soul and the body being very different things. The soul is the eternal part of you or your animal and goes on after what we call death. And the body is a vessel or a vehicle for the soul to be incarnated. And to review, once the body dies, the soul is extracted through the crown chakra. And since the soul is the eternal part, the soul can be reincarnated and reunited with the person or family over many lifetimes. Our soul animals come with us on our earth journey to be of service to us and help us with our lessons. You may be wondering, is the personality of my animal their soul or their body? Well, the personality traits of your animal mainly comes from their eternal soul, but some of the personality is also attached to the body and the lessons they have chosen. Animals have shared with me that every time they choose a new body, they will add some additional or alternative personality traits to go with the body, which they have chosen to incarnate into. In a way, they may choose a large, agile body or a small, frail body, depending on the experiences they wish to have and the lessons they are working on. When I talk about lessons, animals that are in human care are also helping us with our lessons, but also working on their own lessons that they wish to resolve in this lifetime. So they chose a body accordingly. What about soul family? Your animals are not just bundles of fluff, fur, feathers, or scales. They are your soul family. Just like your family, your friends, partners, spouses, and children, so are your animals. I know you may already feel this when you met your very special soul animal and felt an immediate loving bond. They love you so much. So choose to reincarnate to help you with your lessons. Next, let's discuss past lives. Keep in mind animals that have already passed on or animals still alive in their physical bodies may have had many past lives or incarnations. You may already know this, but the past, present, and future are not a timeline like we are led to believe. Most people think it's a line with the present in the middle and the past on one end of the continuum and the future on the opposite end. It really doesn't work like this. Instead of being a timeline, it's more like a continuous circle or a dimensional jump. So as you can see, the past, the present, and the future really are in the now. And we can access the past and past lives of a soul by looking at what is called the continuum of life. That soul can be human, animal, or another being. I can look at the continuum of life for both you and your animals at the same time. When you are incarnated together, what lessons and patterns you experience together. So what is the benefit of dredging up my animal's past life, or your past life for that matter? Many times there are unexplainable behavior problems, sometimes traumas or fears with your animals that cannot be explained in the current life. This can also be the case for you too. You or your animals may have phobias or unexplainable emotions or reactions to things which make no sense at all. Sometimes these feelings or behaviors can be rooted in a past lifetime and repeated over many, many lifetimes until they are healed and resolved. And by looking at these lifetimes, these past lifetimes, you can also find the root cause of many issues that you thought were unresolvable. For example, I have had clients tell me that they have gone to many animal trainers or behaviorists and nothing has helped. That's where I step in as an animal communicator because I can directly communicate with your animals to find out when these behaviors started and the root causes, which may come from past incarnations with you. If the problem started centuries ago and then was repeated over and over, as our karmic patterns are, then we must address the past lifetime where it first happened, and then the other lifetimes where the pattern was repeated. I can also negotiate with your animal and you from the past life or the past life dimension, as we're calling it, to leave the behavior in the past and not bring the behavior forward anymore. Having a past life session is so healing on many levels. It can also be very healing from the grief and loss you've experienced from losing your soul animal. Let me tell you a personal story of how I healed my horrible grief after losing my soul dog Frosty after doing a past life session. So when I adopted my dog Frosty at age 6, he was very aggressive, untrained, defensive, would growl, show teeth, soil the house, run away, bite, you name it. Very untrained. With time, we developed such a deep and loving bond that after his passing, an animal communicator told me that Frosty wanted to communicate this to me. Frosty said he had past lives as a controlling ruler and said how much all of my love for him had changed him and had transcended his soul karma. Because of how much love I brought to him, he was able to transcend anger and move past negative emotions. But despite this, I grieved over him deeply, and I still cried over him for the next 13 years until I became an animal communicator and found out Frosty had incarnated with me over and over and over again to help me with my very big lessons. He protected me from abuse in this lifetime and many other lifetimes. The past life regression even revealed things that happened to me in my current lifetime. That's how you know it's real. In fact, Frosty was 3 different animals in my current lifetime and many other animals, different animals in other lifetimes. When I found this out, honest to God, I never cried again after crying for 13 years. As you can see, I can really help heal the sorrow and grief, the one that I went through, from losing your beloved animals. You will be able to see clearly the patterns of many lifetimes together where your animal was helping you with your lessons and how they kept incarnating with you over and over again to be of service to you. So have you ever wondered if your animal could have been a human before? I always get that as a question. I'm going to share with you my personal experiences working with animals. When I went to training for animal communication, I was taught that there is a hierarchy, and once you're a human, you don't go backwards and become an animal, nor did animals become humans. However, very early on in my training, I learned that animals can and do go back and forth sometimes between being human and being animals or other beings. I had a mind-blowing experience as an animal communicator with clients doing an animal communication and past life case where the client's animals described verifiable, factually and historically accurate lifetimes as humans, but then chose to incarnate, or reincarnate, I should say, as an animal again for their own lessons or to help their humans with their lessons. Let me share this story with you. There was a client who had a dog whom did not act like a dog. They shared with me various odd behaviors the dog had. And when I spoke to the animal, I never, ever, ever expected to get this information I received. I asked the dog why he had these certain behaviors, and he told me, I am in charge, and I have to be the one making the family and household decisions. When I asked why he thinks this and reminded him that he's a dog, he said, because I am king. I asked him to elaborate on what he was suggesting. He then told me this. He said he was a human before, not only a human, but the king of Prussia. What? Yes, that's what I said too. Then the dog proceeded to give me historical and factually accurate details, which I later verified when I was done with the session. I always wait until the complete end to do any Google searching. I never, ever am on the computer. In fact, I shut off my Wi-Fi when I talk to the animals. And then if I have to look up something, I will do it after. So I verified all of these facts after the session. It blew my mind. About the time in history, the years, the wars created and fought, what countries were involved in the wars, information about the 7 Years' War, the family names, the surnames, the royal relatives, etc., etc., etc. Mine was blown. It was a good deal of information, which all checked out to be 100% accurate, even the names. I just simply cannot even fathom, and I know you can't either, but I'm the animal communicator. This was early on, like I said, in my early years of training as an animal communicator, and my mind was so blown, and I was so blown away. So I asked him what his person was to him, and he told me she was the queen. Then I asked the obvious, if you were the king of Prussia, why are you a dog now? He answered, because I have chosen the lesson of humbleness in this lifetime. I said, well, you chose the right body. I mean, my mind was blown at that point. So again, I researched it and every single thing checked out. Since I was still in training at that time, I was terrified to give this information to the client. I read her the entire conversation. I did not sugarcoat anything. I did not take anything out. because it was for her benefit and mine. And she told me not only was her family ancestry from Prussia and from the Prussian area, but the people used to call her queen. She said they called her a queen her whole life and told her that she acts like a queen. Again, mind blown. So the whole story checked out. So that changed my mind as to whether an animal could have been human before. And then since that time, I've talked to many animals with past lives as a human, another animal, or even another being, such as a tree or something else. It always has to do with the lessons that we sign up for to work with when we incarnate into a body. I have also done past life regressions on humans who were animals or other beings. So how do you use this information to get over the grief and loss of losing your beloved soul animal? Like we talked about in episode 7, I can help alleviate your deep sadness and grief when you have lost your beloved animal by directly communicating with the animal in spirit. So that's one session, talking to the animal in spirit, almost like a human medium. And at that point, I find out if they're okay, if they're coming back to you. I can find out how they're feeling now, when and where they're coming back to you, how will you find them, and even if they're coming back to you. And all the details that goes with this, like we talked about. I can also do a past life session or a past life regression with the both of you to find out what special relationships you had with each other. For example, what lessons you worked on together, what repeated patterns showed up, and what can be an important step in your grief and recovery process. Remember how I cried over Frosty for 13 years? Well, the day I stopped crying was the day after the past life session. It was so healing for me. I hope you are not listening in your car because you may have to pull over for your existential crisis you are having now. I know this information I'm giving you is mind altering, but I'd love for you to stay with me. Next, we are going to talk about animal or pet reincarnation. Because your animal soul is eternal, they can choose to come back to you many, many times, like I talked about, to be in service to you and help you with your lessons. So there is 2 options here with coming back. Being born into a baby body. So let's talk about this first. If your animal chooses to return to you, they may choose to be born into a baby body, such as a puppy, a kitten, a foal, etc. In this case, they will seek out and find a mother host that is pregnant or going to become pregnant soon. When they locate the mother host going through the gestation period, they will eventually bring their soul into the physical vessel of the developing fetus. I have been told by the pranic healing masters that the human soul comes into the body in the 7th month of pregnancy. But this is for humans during a 9-month gestation. So, of course, this will not be the case for all animals who have a much shorter gestation period. The soul can hover around the body and does not have to be fully in until the actual birth when they take their first breath. If the soul changed their mind, which can happen, or does not inhabit the body vessel, the newborn animal will be stillborn. Now let's talk about walk-ins. Yes, walk-ins. This happens for both humans and animals. A walk-in happens when one soul wants to leave their body and another soul wants to come in. With humans, it happens when a person is tired, they're struggling, and they're tired of being incarnated in a physical body and are ready to leave. They may be even thinking or contemplating suicide. But since there is a shortage of bodies, especially adult bodies, that can affect change quickly instead of having to go through the process of being birthed and growing up. So they are intervened by their guides to preserve the body vessel and let an exchange take place where another soul comes in to take their place. This switch may happen during an accident, like a car accident, or surgery, or some type of trauma where the body is in a coma or on life support. The switch is made during this time and the other soul departs. Families who have experienced this can attest to the fact that their loved one wakes up with a different personality, different taste in things, different activities, and foods they enjoy. This happened to my father, and the person who woke up from brain surgery was unrecognizable to me. The long-term memory remains intact, along with some karmic lessons and patterns. So how do walk-ins work with animals? With animals, sometimes an animal that has recently passed wants to reincarnate right away to come back to their person. Our soul animals love us so very much and want to come and help us with our lessons in our lives. Some animals may feel they don't want to rest, but need to urgently come back to their person because they may need them. In this case, they will seek out an animal which is already alive and incarnated in a physical body already. They will find out how the current soul feels about leaving their body. Some animals are tired and worn out from being in a physical body or helping their humans, so they agree to leave their body and let the new soul come in. But there must be a mutual agreement for the switch to happen. The switch might happen the same way as humans with an accident or trauma, but it may also happen naturally and easily during their sleep. From working with clients' animals that are walk-ins, I've noticed there is a transition period where it seems like both souls and personalities are in one body, and then the departing soul leaves, and then the personality changes abruptly. You will notice changes in their eyes. After all, the eyes are the windows to the soul. After the new soul slips in and takes over, as I said, there will sometimes be dramatic overnight personality changes that you may think very odd. Then the reincarnated animal will start showing you a few uncanny behaviors that your beloved animal that passed away may have had. I even had a client that had an animal that kept laying upside down, playing dead with all the legs in the air, to show the person that they were the animal that had previously passed on. They kept showing them by playing dead and sticking the legs up in the air. And she called me. She's like, "What is wrong with my dog?" As I was writing this podcast, I had a client with the exact situation that we were talking about. You guessed it, a walk-in. And honestly, I'm seeing this more and more happening right now. As I was writing this podcast, I had a client with the exact situation we were talking about. You guessed it, a walk-in. A dog had crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and I communicated with him at that time, and he told me he was thinking about being a cat, coming back as a cat, which was very odd since the client was not really a cat person. But the client had recently adopted a kitten who was already in the household, and I can only think that her dog was in spirit sending her messages and thoughts to get a cat or to get a kitten. This could be in her dream time or during waking hour. Some time had passed, and she enjoyed the kitten's personality. Then she contacted me to tell me the kitten's personality had suddenly changed. She said the last 2 weeks, the kitten had a distinct personality change and suspected it might have been her previous dog. So she booked a session with me to talk to this kitten. I spoke to the kitten, who confirmed it was him, her beloved dog, who had changed places with the kitten. He told me that the kitten selflessly agreed to do the soul switch so he could be back with his human and help her once again. He shared with me that there was an interim period of time where both souls were in their body together, in the kitten's body together, until the kitten's soul departed. The client confirmed that this was the case with the kitten's dual personality traits. He also shared that the specific personality traits that he was trying to show as human that he was, in fact, her dog reincarnated. What a story. Keep in mind, when an animal reincarnates, they will show you one or two uncanny personality traits that exactly match your animal that has passed. It won't be every single trait, but maybe one or two or three. Since the animal has a new body and a new breed they have chosen for themselves, they also get some new personality traits that go along with the new body they selected. If you suspect that your animal has been reincarnated, either in a newborn body or as a walk-in in an existing body, look for the matching personality traits or book a session with me so I can ask your animal directly about the details. Remember my beloved dog Frosty? Well, he reincarnated into a kitten on the same day he was put down. That is right. A kitten named Cloud, who was born on the same day. Frosty was put down. I would never, ever thought I would get another animal. I was so heartbroken. And a friend of mine tried to get me to get a cat, but I flat out refused, saying I would never, ever again get another animal or never love another being in my entire life. And keep in mind, this was before I became an animal communicator. I was just like you. I thought that was it for me. I did not ever realize I would even be an animal communicator at that point. So what happened was about 6 weeks later, I got this thought in my mind that maybe I'll get a kitten. And I happened to look through the local shelter adoption pages, and there were literally hundreds of kittens for adoption. So I looked through every single picture, and I only chose one animal. That's right. I picked one out of hundreds. And her name was Cloud, and she was the same color as my dog, except for she had this little gray patch over her head. So they named her Cloud, and she was a female. And I called them up to complete the adoption procedure, and I was told she wasn't available for another 2 weeks. And they told me to meet them at Pet Supermarket in 2 weeks to pick her up. When I was driving there that day, I decided that if I wasn't instantly in love with her, I would not take her. The minute I walked into Pet Supermarket, I took one look at her, and I literally ran to the checkout counter and said, "Don't adopt this animal. She is mine." I was instantly in love. But despite the uncanny resemblance, I never knew she was Frosty. I never ever knew this until I became an animal communicator years later. She looked like a cookie cutter feline version of my dog Frosty because Frosty was a mini American Eskimo. He had white pointy ears. He looked just like a fluffy white cat. And Cloud showed me two distinct personality traits that Frosty had, but I never got it until years later when I learned animal communication. If you want to find out if your animal is reincarnated with you, book a session with me so I can ask directly. And my website is animals-speak.com. So, how do they choose what animal or being they will incarnate as? Animals can choose to incarnate or reincarnate as any being they like. The choice of what type of being they choose is related to their sole purpose and their lessons they choose. If they choose to be of service to their human, they will come back as a domestic animal that can be part of their lives and live in the household. And as we discussed, many animals want to help us with our lessons. An animal that is working with humans would not choose a wild animal body since they may never have human contact. But if you are approached by an animal in the wild, it is for a specific reason, and you should strongly pay attention to this. The same thing if you dream about a specific animal. I hold a tribal ceremony where you call in your spirit animals on the equinoxes and the solstices. The animals will come in and bring you valuable and timely messages. If you are interested in this, please sign up under the newsletters on my website at animals-speak.com. Many zoo and rescue animals have told me that they have chosen this incarnation to be front and center to work with humanity to help awaken them. Believe it or not, when you walk by these animals, they are sending you telepathic messages. I am not sure what episode it will be, but I promise I will share these messages from these animals for humanity. And I am also working on a book to share all of these amazing messages from them. If an animal does not want to work with humans, they can choose to live in the wild and just interact with other animals and nature. I've had animals tell me that they were human before, but chose an animal body since it was the only way to get close to their person in this lifetime. Animals have also told me that they will choose the type of animal with their human. The person may not be able to handle a dog, so they may come back as a cat or a bird. Or the person may not be allowed to have animals, or it's not appropriate for their lifestyle, so they can come back as something small like a fish, a small mammal, or a reptile that they can keep inside. But you can be sure, whatever they choose to come back as, they are very present in your life, and they have chosen to be of service to you once again. As you can see, our beloved animals are not only family, but bring us the most unconditional love we will ever experience as humans. Let me share with you some beautiful testimonials clients have shared with me after doing past life sessions with me. In the previous episode 7, I shared some testimonials about talking to animals in spirit. So this time I'll just share the past life ones. Testimony 1, talking to an animal in spirit and a past life session for Leah the Doberman. Hi, Loli. Thank you so much for your help. This session and the session devoted to Leah were very powerful and insightful for me. My wife and I first worked with Loli when our dog passed. The session was very powerful and revealed a long history between our dog and myself, and so followed up on a past life regression. The past life session was incredibly insightful and helpful, and it revealed many patterns still present in my current lifetime. It brought me a new perspective to the source of a couple's issue I had been dealing with, anger and guilt, that I hadn't been able to understand previously. Thanks to Loli, I now have new information that will help me change my outlook and release these issues. Thank you, Loli. M.A. and wife, Kailua Kona, Hawaii. The next testimonial is from a past life session for a dog named Toby, a Maltipoo. I love the surprise element to it and how involved I was personally in the experience. It was so informative and entertaining, it felt like it had value and merit. I like the way that you put people at ease and how you handle the information and how it would make sense. Your intuition doesn't only go to the animal communication, but good instincts on how to relay information. I appreciate all of your time and effort in the work that you're doing to care enough about me and my children and to take the time that you did. I feel touched. I have been trying to pay attention to him and speak to him more and keep him in the loop, reassure him, and including him in our life. He seems a little bit more relaxed and trusting. CD, Brightwaters, New York. That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you have a much greater understanding of the value of animal communication in communicating with your soul animals in spirit and in past lifetimes. Book your animal communication session now. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, as well as opening your heart, mind, and spirit to your deep and eternal connection with your beloved soul animals. See me on my website at animals-speak.com, animals-speak.com. And I am available for animal communication, talking to your animals after they have passed, past life regressions, energy healing work, and I also have upcoming animal communicator training workshops. And for more information on that, you can visit me on my website again, animals-speak.com, and subscribe to my newsletters. You'll get invites there. And if you need to reach me, my email is lolijane LOLIJANE, animalcommunication@gmail.com. All one word. Lowly Jane, animalcommunication@gmail.com. Join us next week for episode 9 on help locating lost animals. And be sure to follow and subscribe for special segments only available to subscribe. And as always, love and gratitude for listening to the Lowly Jane Animal Communication and Healing Podcast.